Margaret Sanger's birth control program, now called Planned Parenthood, is a eugenics program, as stated in her own words, to be promoted via carefully written propaganda. Planned Parenthood calls her a heroic woman. The Nazi Party, while not deemed heroic, practiced the same concept, if implemented differently to Sanger's more subtle approach. The Nazis practiced eugenics as part of their social policies. The racial ideology of Nazism focused on biological improvement through selective breeding. The Nazis' social policies were heavily influenced by the eugenics movement. Sanger advocated voluntary adherence. The Nazis implemented more coercive, genocidal measures. However, this idea was widespread. It was practiced in Scandinavia, Canada, Britain, the United States, Asia, and Latin America. In her 1921 article, Eugenic Value of Birth Control Propaganda, she wrote, "Today, eugenics is suggested by the most diverse minds as the most adequate and thorough avenue to the solution of racial, political, and social problems. The most intransigent and daring teachers and scientists have lent their support to this great biological interpretation of the human race." She called it a new weapon of civilization, saying that the eugenic and civilizational value of birth control is becoming apparent to the enlightened and the intelligent. Sanger started the Negro Project in 1939 to provide her eugenics program to Black communities. The program was described in 2001 by the Margaret Sanger Papers Project as constructed with racist perceptions. Planned Parenthood, while maintaining the same practices, has distanced itself from its founder for her racist, white supremacist, and eugenics associations. Imagine if they were named the Nazi Eugenics Clinic, disavowed the founders, yet still did all the same things the founders advocated. Nothing has changed. In her book, Woman and the New Race, dedicated to the memory of her mother, who she wrote gave birth to 11 living children, she advocates for planned child murder. She writes that the most merciful thing that the large family does to one of its infant members is to kill it. Her mother gets 11 children, but you have to plan the death of yours. Death for thee, but not for me, it would seem. A quotation falsely attributed to Margaret Sanger reads, "Colored people are like human weeds and need to be exterminated." This is used to imply that she never held radical or racist views. She said birth control is not contraception indiscriminately and thoughtlessly practiced. It means the release and cultivation of the better racial elements in our society and the gradual suppression, elimination, and eventual extirpation of defective stocks, those human weeds which threaten the blooming of the finest flowers of American civilization. That is so much better. I hope you're not a human weed slated for elimination. In 1924, she said, "How are we to breed a race of human thoroughbreds unless we follow the same plan? We must make this country into a garden of children instead of a disorderly backlot overrun with human weeds." Who exactly were these human weeds destroying the seemingly perfect garden of children? Given the extensive implementation of segregationist Jim Crow laws at the time, it's not hard to infer that Black people were potential candidates. The historical prevalence of anti-Irish prejudice would also deem Irish Americans as yet other possible human weeds. Henry Goddard, a prominent eugenicist, stated in 1912 that 83% of Jews, 80% of Hungarians, and 79% of Italians were either morons or imbeciles, based on testing conducted at Ellis Island as part of his famous Kallikak study on defectives. His research convinced over 30 states to legalize sterilization. This was legal sterilization of the unfit to promote survival of the fittest, as determined by eugenicists like Sanger, the Nazi Party, and other atheist Darwinists. Sanger wrote, "Eugenics without birth control seemed to me a house built upon sands." The eugenists wanted to shift the birth control emphasis from less children for the poor to more children for the rich. We went back of that and sought first to stop the multiplication of the unfit. In case you're wondering if you're unfit, if you're not one of the rich elite she refers to, then you're one of the unfit. My advice is to go forth and multiply. I'm sure I read that somewhere. In her infamous article, A Better Race Through Birth Control, she wrote, "Given birth control, the unfit will voluntarily eliminate their kind." Planned Parenthood and abortion are her instruments to promote this lethal eugenics agenda. The object of civilization is to obtain the highest and most splendid culture of which humanity is capable. But such attainment is unthinkable If we continue to breed from the present race stock that yields us our largest amount of progeny, some method must be devised to eliminate the degenerate and defective, for these act constantly to impede progress and ever increasingly drag down the human race. Margaret Sanger, in A Better Race Through Birth Control, November 1923. Planned Parenthood and Margaret Sanger are merely trying to build a better world, a perfect world, a utopia. While some may claim this is reductio ad Nazism, given the facts, they are merely blinded by propaganda. This is the same intent, but by different means.
This article is available on the Coffee page, linked in the description. If you like this concise content by Lloyd de Jong, please subscribe on Coffee for more and support more of this work there. Here on YouTube, please like the content with a thumbs up, share it and subscribe to the channel.